right.
What's up, guys?
What's up, man?
Hey.
Yeah, man. So
what
tonight,
a montage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to see like how many of those movies I recognize. Like,
that was amazing. Psyched up now.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. So tonight, man, we got a multi-stream going with Deadpit, Subjective Perspective Collective, and Pugwall 316. And this is the second episode of the Euro Crypt. And the Euro Crypt is open again. So we're going to be covering some British horror tonight. 3 films. Peeping Tom, 1960. Repulsion, 1965. And The Haunting of Julia, 1977. So how y'all doing tonight, man?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, doing
great. Some great choice. Like we said, the 3 films we were just talking before we went on, like in terms of how they've linked together and films that I don't see people talking about a lot. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
And that was completely by mistake as well, really. Well, not, because we didn't even try to link them together. We just picked 3 random films, and then we realized it's kind of like a character study. But it just worked out. It's one of those happy accidents.
It's weird, isn't it? When you start talking about something sometimes and then it turns up on TV the next day, or you're reading about it in a magazine and you're like, where did that come from? It's one of those kind of weird, just synchronistic things that happens.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's the psychological aspect of all 3 of these. It's like, and you're in the field a little bit, right, UB?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm a licensed therapist, so yeah.
Right. So especially one film in particular.
Yeah, I have an interesting, I think, take on that film too. But I mean, I know what the director said about the film, but there's so many different layers to that you can like kind of,
it is, man. Yeah.
Look into and kind of pick apart. But yeah, these were like 3 really good. They're basically character studies, like all 3 of these films in different ways. And yeah,
man.
To talk about.
We got quite a few people in here. Let's see. I'll go through the chat a little bit. Got the mayor here. Let's open up the crypt. Hell yeah, man. Pat Master, what's going on?
Hey, Nate.
Appreciate it. This is a great montage. Texas HXCX 1965. What's going on, man? The Bud Files.
Nice.
What's happening, man? Yeah. Adrian James. What's happening?
Awesome.
Cool.
Good crew.
Well, yeah, man. I guess we'll get into it then. Start out with Peeping Tom, 1960. Man, this is my first time seeing the film. And that's kind of like why I love doing these shows, man, because I like digging into these films. And to know that this came out 2 months before Psycho is insane. I know Martin Scorsese's, he's put this over so big. He's actually the reason that it had new life. Like, it was pretty much like a forgotten film. And somebody had brought to him and said, look, can you buy this film for $5,000? This is in 1980. And they're like, buy this film for $5,000. And he's like, I'll do it, but you got to give me a 35 millimeter print as well. So he
and he basically got the director as well, Michael Powell, to actually work for him, Scorsese, in the 70s. He was doing kind of, back stuff with the films and all. I think Mean Streets was one of them he worked on. So, but his career, it just went, straight after this film, really, which is quite sad. But now, like, people say this is now an instant classic, everyone who sees it. I'm going to differ with all 3 of you, I think, on this one, so it should be interesting.
Killer.
I mean, it is a funny one, though, isn't it? Where I did mention this earlier on, but like every time I've read about it in, say, Sight and Sound or anything or even at university and things like different books and stuff, there's always quite highfalutin talk about it, which can steer me in 2 different ways, which is like, it's not going to be as good as what they're saying because I know differently, or it's going to be amazing. It's going to be wonderful. And I think I like, a bit like you were saying before, I can appreciate it. And I like it a lot. I think out of the three that we're going to talk about, it's probably the one I would score the highest out of the three.
Okay.
I didn't see that coming.
I mean, yeah, I kind of want to agree with that too.
Yeah, I like. Oh, good. I thought I'd been completely on my own there because I kind of like the pulpy element of it. I like it in terms of the pacing of it. I think works well for me. I was drawn to it all the way through. It didn't lose my attention, and I'll explain maybe why some of the others didn't in the same sort of way. And what I quite liked about it was the weirdness of the lead actor in clearly German, with an English dad, living in England, English name. It's never mentioned, which is fine. It's fine. I don't need it mentioned for it to make it a good bit. But I think it makes him it makes him like a fish out of water straight away. It makes him awkward. It makes him a beat behind everyone else. It adds to that awkwardness of the character. So actually, I think that really worked. I found him really captivating. Now, I can understand why other people might take the opposite of that and just go, I would like a maybe more nebbish English dorky.
Yeah, I think originally it was supposed to be, but for whatever, I'm trying to remember the actor. He couldn't make it for some reason, but
I completely like the opposite to what you just said. Like the lead actor doesn't really like engage me. I find it kind of slow and boring in places. The whole opening, I love the whole opening, the Eastman color and the prostitute and all that.
£2, right?
Right, yeah, £2. That's a pain.
Bargain.
It's
she had her own place and everything. She had a heater. I was like, damn, £2. Like, that's pretty.
All for £2, man.
Yeah.
It's definitely before its time. I know that's common, people say that a lot about films, but this one,
I can't help though, but like as I was watching his performance in the film, I was like thinking to myself, okay, so this is where all those other performances come from. Like that's the thing that I had in my mind. So this is where like they got that whole trope of like where like maniac kind of stuff comes from.
Right. Yeah.
And like where that where he's very unpredictable and he's very kind of like socially awkward. And you can see that he's trying to have like a relationship, but he can't quite do it because he's simultaneously
he's disgusted in himself, I think. But he's also like what he's doing. I guess I can kind of give a little brief synopsis for everybody right quick. So it's a troubled filmmaker, softcore porn photographer, obsessed with a personal project of capturing fear and death for his own pleasure and torment. He can't escape. His life becomes even more complicated when he begins a friendship with a neighbor downstairs, innocent Helen.
She's great.
He has a crush on him, and he struggles with the damage his father has instilled in him. I guess that's the best way I can summarize.
The film that this immediately reminded me of too, that I think almost completely ripped this off in a way, was Red Dragon. Like, that was immediately the film that I thought about. I was like, there's so many beats in this movie that like go back that they took from that movie when they were making that. But so one of the cool, or depending on how you look at it, like you're either going to love this part of this movie or you're going to hate it. But it actually does go into detail about like what made him the way that he is. Because they go back to his father, who was this guy that was doing all these experiments in fear in children specifically. And when you look at a movie like Repulsion, you've got no idea why she is the way that she is. She just shows up that fucking way. And like for the rest of the film, she is that way. Yeah. But it never really directly tells you anything about like that. So depending on what kind of movie you like, if it's going to depend on how you feel about those two films, because they're completely different in that way. Like one has a really detailed backstory, and one is just like you don't really have any idea. Like why
it leans into that childlike element of his character, and like you said, socially awkward. But there's certainly, as he grows attached to Vivian, Moira Shearer's character, that's like where it becomes a bit more subtle than a lot of other films, where he isn't just he isn't villainous. He's just very, very troubled, and
I think that's part of the reason why audiences back then didn't connect with the character, because it was like making you feel sympathy for this.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable,
sicko, right? Like, but he's damaged. Like, so it's like, they couldn't handle that shit, but.
Right. So do you think the actual reason he's doing this is to kind of like one-upmanship his father and go another level?
He's continuing his father's work. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And basically saying, look, what you did to me as a child, I'm just going to do one better. And then, like, if you want to go into the ending as well, he
has his father's eyes.
Yeah. The final, there's like with the ending, there's something that happens as well where he actually says about, was his father actually making other kind of videos as well, or films as well. Yeah. And then it's kind of poetic, the ending, but to me, it just, I don't know. I wish I liked him more. It's interesting to see you three guys obviously liking it the way you do.
I mean, I can tell you right now, it's. I mean, and I usually don't do this, but this is a 10 out of 10 for me. This film is. And,
okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's probably. I don't know, man. It just resonated. The whole idea of capturing, like, he's got the camera and he's killing someone with this thing on the end of the camera with a mirror, trying to show them like the face of death. Like, that whole idea is so crazy as hell.
I mean, you're talking about 1960. You imagine like walking into a theater in 1960 and that be what you see. Well, you didn't see it for very long because they pulled it after a couple of weeks. But like, yes. I mean, if you actually like saw it the first time, like, that's a crazy thought. Like, just that thought of that was in there. That somebody wrote that out at that time period and executed that. It's ingenious in a way. And just absolutely macabre in another way, but like, I really like you, Dirk. Like, as I was watching it, for some reason it just clicked in my mind. It's like, this is like an incredibly original idea that's really, really well executed. Like, and the way that he goes about it with the different kind of, like, we'll call them night workers. That's kind of his MO is going around and finding them and then becoming attached to this one particular woman. And the scene that really got me is the scene where I can't remember her name, but like the one girl who's like really lighthearted and she's dancing around the whole set and everything. And she's like got all this dance number. She completely trusts him to kind of film this. He's like, we're going to do this, kind of set up with all this gear that we got here in this studio. And she's like completely trusting of him. And then in like a split second, he shifts from that to, he's like, well, as he's explaining like what would scare her right before he actually does it. And that's just so terrifying. Like that's his character. Like, he can trick people into that. And then like in a split second, just shift and show you like that's him, and that he would go through with it, even though she was super nice to him. Like, none of the stuff mattered. Yeah.
And it being on a movie set as well, like it's got that, if they're making it now, everybody, it's so meta, everything's so meta, but it actually very creative use of the movie sets and the cameras and the way they interact with the actors and the actors' behavior. I loved all that kind of stuff. I thought it was it was quite fresh even now. Now, obviously, we're looking at it with decades of slasher films and decades of all different types of kills and creative kills and all this kind of stuff. But what this comes down to, I think, is the story is a solid story that kind of fits together and makes sense. It's not like the most detailed story, convoluted story in the world. but his background, the reasons he does what he does, all make sense.
Yeah.
And his relationship is quite tender and I think Moira Shearer adds to that, because she's not like a kind of girly girl love interest character. She's just in her own way as needy and as awkward as he is, and that works really well. And the only film I can think... go ahead.
I was just saying, he's trying to protect her as well, right? So he's kind of like refusing to film her.
Yeah, that's quite touching. It's quite touching. Yeah.
So
I mean, that's where the scene with the mother comes in, where she got this sixth sense. You know,
blind
she's blind.
woman. Yeah,
the blind.
I think that's I think that's genius. Just to, like, she knows what he's up to straight away. She can like sense it.
There's a quote in there where she says something like you got to pay attention to the way that he walks. Like he's really stealthy in the way that he walks. So she picks up that there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Just by the way that she hears him like walk through the house and things.
Which so much better than. Yeah. So sorry, just to say to add to what you were saying, Bill. I totally agree. Like, it's not just if it was any other film in that way, it would just be like, I have a feeling about this guy and not explain it. But all the things you're saying, I think, make it better because it's creatively thinking.
Yeah, she has a reason. Like, she's not just like being like, I got like a sixth sense feeling. She's like, there's something about the way this guy walks and like talks and everything about it is just like odd, and it just doesn't add up, you know, to who that she says he is. Yes. But another cool thing that this movie does that I don't remember a lot of movies doing in the 60s, especially, is like it makes you really, really like a character, and then that character dies, and it's just like you follow this character for a pretty good length of time in the film and like kind of get used to her, and she's super like jovial and, you know, sweet, and you're a fly on the wall because you know what he's like and you know what she's like, right? So at least I was like kind of like, this is not really gonna happen. Like, I mean, she's gonna walk away from, like, there's gonna be something that happens where he kind of like, you know, lets her go or whatever, and he doesn't, and that's just like insane to me for a movie of that time period that they set it up that way.
And you're still on the line with, like, you're not totally, even when he does that, you're not totally like, oh well, screw this guy. Like,
it's true.
You're still with him right till the end in a lot of ways. I'm not saying you're rooting for him. You're not like, let's go, let's, you know. But what you are doing is kind of understanding him in the same way, appreciating what is going on, and the, like we said before, the reasons for what he's doing. The only film I can think of, and it's a bit later than this, is from 1971, that made me feel like this, and I was trying to think for ages what it reminded me, is 10 Rillington Place. And when John Hurt's character is a very likable, simple kind of chap, and something bad happens, and you're like, oh damn, like, it took me back. Obviously, that's different in the sense 10 Rillington Place is a true story. So there's also a lot of kind of.
I haven't seen that one, so I
it's based on John Christie, the serial killer.
Oh yeah,
in the UK.
Yeah, that's a tough watch, and it's not something I would sit down and watch
really good.
over and over again.
Film.
Yeah, and Richard Attenborough is incredible in that. I mean, people who maybe think of him as a kindly Santa Claus, or, you know, this is Jurassic Park kind of guy, you need maybe watch this and Brighton Rock, and they're like, whoa, this guy was like a bit of a crazy guy, you know, a bit of a wild child.
Right. And Michael Powell, man, it's kind of crazy because they so I was reading about him, and he was like probably the most famous British director during the war period, during World War II and stuff. And then this film completely annihilated his career, like completely. Like the nudity. There's a brief shot of nudity in the film.
There is, if you know.
1960. Totally. He's pushing lines, man, like that. You know, and so I also found out he worked with Hitchcock as well. And he said that he helped Hitchcock on Blackmail, 1929's Blackmail. He helped him with the end of that, and it was like Hitchcock's first talkie film. And it's also his first big climax type film or whatever. But I don't know. It's pretty interesting. This Michael Powell guy. Like,
but he does actually star in the film as well. Michael Powell. He plays the father,
and that's his son too.
His
the little
son,
boy.
his real son which is a good little touch. Like, and I think he based the film as well, like kind of on himself, like Dario Argento did with maybe Four Flies on Grey Velvet. There's a lot of him in the character. Obviously, he's not a bloody serial killer or anything like that. But he said in terms of wanting to like film stuff when he was younger, and he grew up making, the films he did. So there's a lot of him in there as well, which kind of makes it interesting. And again, I wouldn't come on here and completely shit on the film. I think there's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
It's fine.
It'd be boring if we all like the same things. But I do really appreciate this film. Like the POV shots as well. You think about Halloween and all the early slashers of the 80s completely. And even the Jolly films, I think, got an influence.
You can the audience as a voyeur too is
yeah. Well, you can just like tell like how ahead of its time this movie was. Like this movie was doing things that you really wouldn't see like popularized that much until almost 20 years later or something. So it's like, it's no wonder that people kind of shit on it at the time and wanted to ban it and everything. It's too grim for that time period and way too ahead of its time on what it was.
It's Marty McFly playing the guitar, and
your kids are gonna love it. Yeah, exactly.
But Michael Powell, you gotta give it.
But one thing that he did do that I love though, in this movie was in the middle of the film when he's like explaining what happened to him as a kid, and they showed those shots of the rat, or was it a lizard? What the hell was it? A lizard, something being dropped onto him, and his dad like recording his. Is it made it even further like made you like understand like why he was the way that he was?
Yeah,
like because you see all this. Yeah,
why he dropped his British accent and became German. It was so scary. He was like,
scared the British out of him.
He's like, oh, daddy, don't do that. And he's like, you will not do that to me.
Yeah, and it's
will not drop the lizard.
I learned about scoptophilia as well, which I've never heard about before until this film. It's like the morbid urge to like gaze and basically Peeping Tom, because there's that scene as well when he's young and his father's getting him to spy on this couple kissing.
That's another scene where I was like, I can't believe they're doing this in this film. Like,
he's like just studying his child, and he even says one part in the film. He says that if it was up to him, he would have had a camera on him 24 hours a day, and he had like the house rigged with microphones. Like what the hell,
Yep.
And you think that's like you say, it's well before its time as well. And you think, I come in to play with Big Brother with the cameras everywhere watching you, and it's kind of like that as well, but done in 1959, which is mind blowing.
Well, no, you're right, and I think as well, if we talk about Michael Powell and saying that he saw a lot of himself. I know you just said that about he saw a lot of himself in it, and wanting to film things. It kind of ties in a little bit with Roman Polanski, I think, as well, because when we look at the other film, the part of that stood out for me was because obviously he wrote it, he didn't write it on his own, but it's an early-ish explanation of his attitudes to women and his own kind of psyche, and I think. If you look at this and say Michael Powell, obviously, he didn't go on and become like a serial killer, but you just multiply that by 100, that little idea of, I want to film everything. Maybe Roman Polanski's real life is what he was kind of thinking about making Repulsion, multiply it by 1,000, and you get the stuff that actually happened in his real life.
Well, isn't it pretty ironic that he made this film? Because the film is essentially about like a repulsion towards men.
Yeah, and the men are awful. All the men are awful.
All the men are horrible. And then you come to find out all the stuff about him. It's like you're just projecting your own shit on this movie.
I think it's kind of a confession of it. I think if you look back on it of what was to become. And when I first saw this film, I realized all the backstory on Polanski, what he went on to do. And I know Dirk didn't really want to bring it up, but the stuff with that young model.
Right.
And then you look back on this
before
film,
we get into Repulsion, though, like, I gotta ask y'all, like, what do y'all rate Peeping Tom? What do y'all give it out of 10? You know, me, I already said mine. I blew my load already. 10 out of 10. So, I mean, and I don't say that about a lot of films. Or, I mean, really, it's just that's where I'm at with it, because I keep thinking about the whole idea with the camera, and I could see like a filmmaker watching this film. Like Scorsese said, this film and Fellini's 8.5. He said those two films are the only two films you need to watch that tells you everything about filmmaking. Like,
right?
He said Peeping Tom was about the psychological process of directing people, like in a twisted way, where Fellini was showing like the showbiz side in 8.5. But anyway, sorry.
No, that's interesting. So yours is a straight out 10. I'm going to wait and see what the other guys do before I say mine, because I'm like, I want to kind of.
I'm curious. I'm real curious what Darren gave this movie.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Psycho is a 10 out of 10 too. So there's no way I can't say Psycho is a 10 out of 10. But
this one for me is like I said, I would give it a 4 out of 10.
Oh, shit. I gotta go.
I was thinking you were going to say 6. I thought you were going to say 6.
I thought you were saying
I would, if I had to go, like maybe a 5. But I mean, it just doesn't engage me. Like, and it's not as if I haven't tried. I've tried and tried. It's one of those films. I think everywhere we've all got one of those films that people love.
Yeah.
But it's not to say I hate it. Not by a long way. I think it's a really important film. But it just loses me in the actual slow progression of the film, where that's like a strong point for you guys. I couldn't go more than a 5. Out of 10 for me.
Okay.
I will give it an 8 out of 10. The only problem that I had with this film was, like you were saying, some of the pacing issues. There are parts of it where it's like it does go on a little bit longer than it should in certain scenes.
Maybe the dance scene, maybe.
There's a couple of scenes like that.
I kind of overlooked that because of the time, So
I mean, if you look at like how influential this movie was to other films, and you look at like the risk that this guy was taking by making this type of movie at that time period, then I mean, I got to give it at least an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
I've got it as an 8 as well.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, and again, with you saying that about the dance scene, that's the only part I can think of that drags a little bit. But even then, I can see, I know why it's there. So, because I all three of the films, I don't feel like they overstayed their welcome. There's one that I kind of felt was struggling a bit in terms of what it was doing, but I think everybody would probably disagree with me on it. But this one for me, I got the most out of. So it's a good 8 for me.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I mean, But yeah, man, I guess we'll get into Repulsion, 1965. And I wasn't going to mention this guy's name because he's a scumbag, but we're in one of those situations where you separate the art from the artist. I mean, exactly. I don't know.
Or you don't. I mean, some people can't do it. Some people can, but in this case, like, I don't know. I kind of feel like it's necessary to, because really you see who he is in this movie. Like,
it's very revealing. It's very revealing. Yeah.
And the cinematographer is amazing. The lead actress is amazing. The hell he put her through is crazy, insane shit. But so
he's an asshole. Ain't no doubt about that.
Yeah. I've tried with this film a couple of times in the past, and this is the first time where it really hit with me as a good film. I like Ian Hendry a lot. I like him in even though he struggled with alcohol issues, and so some of his career is a bit up and down. Theatre of Blood's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Theatre of Blood is great. It is great.
And I like something about Ian Hendry. He just has a certain quality about him. But this is Catherine Deneuve's film, isn't it? This is her. But this is the first time I watched it, and I was like, this is a really well-made film about someone's mental illness and someone's maybe you're almost inside her head, and the throbbing and the kind of undulating and confusion and repulsion. It is incredibly well made and well acted. There's you can't really pick it apart in that sense. There's nothing. I think that the thing, once you start digging into the person who created it, then it makes it into a different.
It changes.
It changes. It's hard because I'm a complete hypocrite, because some people I can separate art from the artist, and some people I can't.
Yeah. Well, that's actually the same. Like, I have a easier time doing it when it's a director, honestly, because they're not on screen. Like, if it's an actor or something, I have to be confronted with them, like in the movie. Then I don't know. I have a really.
And then you gotta. I always try to think like of all the people. There's so many other filmmakers and creators of things that we probably will never find out.
Oh yeah. There's so many directors that have done awful things we don't even know.
Look at Plane Haste by Victor Salva. That's what I kind of was thinking of when I was watching the ending of this film, because they're kind of winking at you, telling you what they are, you know. And there's no doubts. The ending of this film, you know, is basically him.
It's pretty ambiguous.
He's admitting to what he was, which is crazy.
Yeah. Like, looking at it like as the film though, like, was she always just disturbed? You don't really know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
that's a $64,000 question. They never really tell you like what the answer is to it. Like,
that's what's so good about this, and especially Haunting of Julia as well. They don't like tell you, you know, you've got to make your own mind up. And there's three possible different things, you know, in Haunting of Julia, which we'll get on to. But this, I feel, is kind of like a mini masterpiece. I think it's superb bit of filmmaking. Like you say, the lead actress is I think it was her best film. I think Polanski even said he's seen all her work after, and nothing comes remotely close.
She became a producer after this, and she was named like Miss France or something.
I tell you a funny anecdote to like what happened right after this movie too that I always thought was telling as well. To promote this movie, like Polanski had her do a Playboy shoot.
Yeah. Right.
And she didn't want to do it. And he was like, well, you know, like it'll help the film and yada, yada, yada. And just like talked her into it. And her thing throughout this whole movie was she didn't want to have any nude scenes or anything like that. And she didn't even really want to be in the nightgown that she's in the movie, you know, but he kind of made her do that as well. And she said that that's one thing she always regretted, is that she went on that and did that Playboy shoot to do.
Yeah.
So I mean, that kind of gives you some insight into.
She wanted to see her kid too, and
that was the big one.
He wouldn't let her see her kid or her boyfriend. He finally agreed, but she had to be on her period.
That's no joke. That's an actual thing that happened. Yeah.
I mean, every man in this film is a perfect like example of a different kind of scumbag that I'd imagine all adds up to parts of Roman Polanski's personality, and also things of the time. You know, how women were seen at the time by certain men. Certainly, I think in cities where people become big cities where people become faceless and, you know, maybe lost within a sort of a big city. So there's a bit of that too. And that sort of, you know, like you say, maybe masking it by having her being almost, you know, she's a badass. Like she doesn't let him get away with anything.
One of the things that is kind of jarring that I think that the film's saying too, though, because she's so beautiful, like she's this gorgeous woman, and nobody notices her mental state. It's like if she was not beautiful, if she was unattractive, I think it'd be pointed out a little.
Her vulnerability
you're right,
is seen as an opportunity for
these. Exactly. That's
people.
what I was going to say. Like, they notice it. They just don't want to do anything with it except take advantage of her. That's like the key thing to this. Several people in the film ask her, like, what's wrong with you?
What's the matter?
But when they ask her that, like, they're wanting to take her like on a date, or they're wanting it's on the context of like sexually wanting something from her. Like when they're asking her that, they're like, why don't you want me? It's basically
why are you smiling?
Colin, right? Colin, especially him. I mean, holy shit.
Do you think, like, actually, the stuff with her sister's boyfriend, like, she becomes repulsed by her sister's boyfriend, but she got this kind of strange attraction to him as well?
Yeah.
You think that's what kicks it off and maybe gets her in this state of mind?
I think it's like her sister is like kind of like her mother in a way. And like, that's like her last little thread of reality. When her sister leaves, goes on vacation with her boyfriend.
Yeah.
That's when her mind snaps finally then. And then she's trapped in like a nightmarish fantasy too, though. It's like a struggle within, right? She's like kind of like, she's repulsed by men, but then she's having these dark ass fantasies. So that's ambiguous too. We don't know.
Go ahead. The one guy at the start, when she's walking down the streets of London, and I think he starts, saying a few things to her which he shouldn't and all that. She kind of has a fantasy about him as well. He turns up in like parts of her visions and that. The one scene I gotta say that I love in this film is the scene in the mirror when the man appears behind her. Man, that made me jump.
As soon as she puts her sister's dress on, that shit happened. So it's like she wants to take her sister's place or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could speculate that she wants her sister's identity, but at the same time she's repulsed by that identity, like, and that it's a family kind of thing as well as like a men kind of thing as well.
She wants to play act,
she wants to act like she's normal, whatever normal would be in that case. There's so many scenes in this movie that you could interpret in many different ways. There's the crack that appears in the apartment, at which I think that was pretty obvious. Like, that's her crack. It's what's happening in the apartment is happening in her own mind, and then you follow that out, and she slowly starts to kind of descend further and further into unwell kind of in her mental health. The question is why, and like that's what y'all were talking about is it because she wants, because a theory that I kind of agree with is that she wants an actual kind of relationship, but anytime she's confronted with an actual relationship, it just absolutely freaks her out, and she kind of goes back to a child almost state. I mean, there's the scene where she kisses the guy, or I should say the guy kisses her, and that's a brilliant scene, by the way. That scene freaked me out the minute that I saw it. She's kissing the guy, and then the camera comes around the other side of the car, and you see she's just like staring straight ahead. She's almost like completely disassociated, like staring straight into the camera. And then, she immediately runs upstairs, brushes her teeth, like does all this stuff to get that. So it's like, but when she's in the car, she kind of like allows that to happen in that way, and then is just immediately kind of repulsed by it.
I mean, it's like there's so many signifiers of trauma and probably childhood trauma, and the fact that she, like you say, she's trying to go through with these things, but there is a physical and mental barrier stopping her doing it, which causes a big schism. It's almost
like she's just doing it because she sees it. Like, she knows the words, but she doesn't know the music, so to speak. She knows
emotions.
Yeah, she knows what a relationship looks like, but she can't achieve it.
Like,
which is a real
throw up, or
Yeah, it's a real thing. That is all like completely real, which is insane.
And that was a reason that the censors, like, it didn't get heavily cut from the censors, because actual psychiatrists said that's a real portrayal of schizophrenia.
Yeah, I mean, as you find her kind of like further and further into the movie, that's definitely what it looks like, or at least disassociation, like and trauma. And there's another part in the film too where they show a picture of her. I don't know if you guys remember, and her family when she was a kid, and she's like standing off to the side, and she's got this like really weird.
She looks pissed off.
Yeah, angry kind of look on her.
I think that's in the opening credits or in the opening scene. It kind of gives you a hint of what's to come. I didn't pick up on it first time I watched it.
Yeah. And
this little thing is like you said before earlier on. It's lets you make up your own mind about these things by just putting a little glimpse rather than whacking you over the head with it.
Yeah. And they don't. Yeah, they never give you like the exact answer or anything, but you get enough to try to figure out what's going on.
And also, she's not from London. She's from Belgium, so she's an immigrant.
Again, fish out of water, and
so I don't know.
I love the London backdrop as well.
The ticking clock. You hear it louder as the film goes on.
I thought there was something wrong with my disc for a minute, and then I realized that was actually like in there because it's really jarring when you hear it.
Yeah, and it's in her head, and it's it's getting louder and louder and louder. Oh man. Yeah, it for me that's one of the most real things is that sensory overload, and there's a few moments like that where they're very cleverly done, and I think when you mentioned about London, I think this is like a London that isn't like a swinging 60s London and kind of stereotypical. It's more of like a taxi driver kind of city where it's a character that's dangerous and unfeeling and just clinical, and if you're in there and you're vulnerable, things are going to happen to your mental health because people are just going to use you up.
And I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it because this is my second time watching Repulsion, but I didn't notice it the first watch. But the second watch, you notice one of the construction workers is one of the guys that's in her nightmare or whatever's happening, hallucination.
No, I didn't spot.
He puts in a lot of subtle things, doesn't he, Polanski, in this film? Like the scene which we're gonna have to mention with the landlord. Basically, it's done so when she slashes him across the back of the neck. He doesn't even see the pain. He just sees what she's done. He just reacts to that. He don't really react to the pain at first, and it's little subtle things like that, all the way through. I think she's like you see her in the foreground in one shot as well, but you can't really make it out. And I was going back to the audio commentary, and he mentioned a lot of people said, "Why did you do that shot?" But if you look closely, she's there, and just little things like that. And you've got the hands coming out the wall.
The walls, the room's getting bigger, and always getting longer, and it's just
all three of the films is being enclosed in rooms, and maybe that's why I mentioned Rillington Place as well. Like, there's a lot of kind of the particular of these times where people's living situations were very like living on top of each other, and sometimes that brings out kind of a sweaty awkwardness, and you get that from feeling trapped, whether it's in your own head or in a small space. I really wanted to ask you what you guys made of the smile
right
at the end. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's not seen it, but I guess if people are watching this, they'll have seen the film, and plus it's from 1965, so like they've had enough time to catch up. What did you make of that? I'm really interested in what you all made of that, the smile at the end, because I'd forgotten it, and I did a double take. I was like, what
the smile where their sister's boyfriend's holding her?
He's carrying her out.
Yeah.
Man, maybe she just completely lost it. I don't know. I can't see her really overcoming her trauma or state of mind. I don't know.
Because he seems. It's not like I've got what I want, because this can't be what you want.
he's a piece of shit himself, like cheating on.
Yeah,
his
but
wife.
I think it's the attraction to him. I think that's why she's smiling. I think he's carrying her out. That's what I got out of it.
Like the one male who does something completely.
Yes, because
helps her.
Ian Hendry, even though he's a complete bastard in the film, he's kind of manly. Whereas the other guy that she don't like, who's after her, is not manly. You know what I mean? And that was done on purpose. But like the Ian Hendry character, like you alluded to earlier, as an actor, what he would do is he would come on set, do all the morning stuff really well, but he liked his booze. So what he would do is go out to lunch each day, come back pissed. And then, he couldn't really do a lot with him after that, Polanski said. But he's such a great actor, though. He's in Tales from the Crypt as well, and he turns up.
Well, he did the same with her, too. He'd get her pissed off and then hand her, like, the candlestick and be like, now do the scene.
Right, yeah.
Oh, Polanski, yeah.
Hendry is... I think that idea of him carrying her off and he's probably not because then the only thing he's really done is have an affair, and in the 60s and 70s that wasn't a reason for you to dislike a male character in a film. That didn't make them a bad character. In fact, sometimes we were told in many films to root for the character who's having an affair. That was just expected. Like that men, if an attractive woman offered themselves up, they're like, oh, awesome, So it's not, he's not the worst male, but it's a pretty crap list.
That's what I was going to say. Even in the pub scene, the guys that are in the pub scene that are like kind of egging the one guy on, and they're like, he's riled up, he's in love, and all this stuff. Like, let's, and they end up pissing him off, and he gets into a fight with him and all that. But that was pretty, I mean, much more accurate than if they had been really kind-hearted, gentle souls. They're like, they're all just kind of getting after him, until he gets to the point where he kind of goes against himself and, goes and seeks her out because they kind of backed him into a corner. They questioned his masculinity.
And that one guy kisses him.
He's not like her.
He's proposed like she is, right?
Exactly. That was the kind of the takeaway that I got too. Like, the same kind of scene. But everybody, there's like a hierarchy of evil males in this film. That they do. The landlord is probably the worst.
Oh yeah,
because the landlord is like, you don't even know how bad he is. You just think he's a greedy asshole. But then when he gets in there and he's got an opportunity, like he
gets his money. And then
it's clever casting because Patrick Wymark's like a kind of handsome hero in a lot of films. So it's not like he's some massive, big, sweaty, like, drooling. They don't play that up. He's just a man who happens to be an awful man. But you can't. He's not like a trope. He's not like a
no. He's not trope. Like he's not like in a corner, drooling, or he's much more subtle than that. Yeah.
And that makes it worse because for a second she's just trying to weigh him up and see, is this guy, what's his deal? Like. Yeah. And she believes him when he's like, oh, well, if I can't come in, then I'm going to kick the door. She's thinking, oh, having kicked the door down, can't do that, But it's like people going, I'm worried about you. I need to come in,
Yeah.
One part of me about this movie thinks, it's about mental illness because it definitely seems that way. But then another part of me is like, is it also just about like how exhausting it is for a woman to be like around all of these different stereotypical males all the time, and maybe that's why she's so haggard and like just
having to guard herself.
I think it's both. I think it's both of those. I think, to be honest, I think it is. It's that kind of, it's the sexual politics and the constant. I
wanted to ask y'all though, what's up with the rabbit head in the purse?
Well, that's a good freaking question. Did you know the only thing I can come up with that is just that's she identifies with the rabbit, right? And rabbits are flight creatures. Like when there's danger, they run. And that seems she runs away in her mind. That's the only thing I can figure out. Like somehow or another, she associates like to be like a rabbit, like just kind of docile and then when she needs to, she can like run.
Right.
And it looks like a fetus as well. I don't know if that comes into play at all.
Polanski said that was a coincidence. I did look into that. Like,
okay,
yeah, it wasn't meant to look like a fetus. It just happens to, which is wild. But you're right. Yeah.
We've all seen Anthropophagus, right?
Right. Yeah. There's there's scenes in this where you see, basically you see that Ian Hendry's wife, and she turns up and she starts watching her outside her apartment and all that. But they were going to film a scene where she actually gets killed as well, the wife, but they didn't go through.
Yeah, I did hear about that because it doesn't make sense with the character. It's all about men.
Yeah,
and then you got like a woman coming in there getting murdered. It takes away from like everything else that's going on in the film. But you could also, if you want to look further into that whole rabbit thing, you could say that's her wanting to kill off that part of herself because she keeps like the head, in there. And maybe that's her symbolically kind of saying that she wants that part of herself to die. I don't know. But I mean, that's why this film is amazing because it's open to like a million different interpretations.
And like he said, he's not going to spell it out for anybody.
No. It's more jarring now with rabbits and stuff because obviously like wartime or post-war, eating liver and onions and kidneys and rabbits and things. To be honest, like, the amount of films I've seen from around this time, people are eating rabbit, and it's a real rare treat. I can't think of, I'm from a working class background, and I can't think of anyone in my family beyond maybe my grandma who's ate a rabbit. Like,
I have.
Dirk and I have probably.
I was gonna say maybe it's a cultural thing in different places, like hunting and shooting kind of thing.
It is.
Whereas, But whereas in
the
UK, it's almost like we just ate things that were there because there was nothing else.
Right.
Well, that's the interesting part about it. Is definitely nothing like associated with where she's at, and
right.
Like what I mean. Like, it doesn't make any sense in the context of where she's at in any way. And it's to me one of the only things in the film that is really kind of like I was scratching my head trying to figure out like what is the symbolism that he's going for with this, because I mean it's obvious that there's something there. I mean it's much more there than like some of the other things that are kind of planted subtly. It's just jarringly there, so there's got to be something he's going for there, and I can't figure out exactly what it was.
Well, it's like y'all said earlier, like I know a lot of these directors, they're putting themselves in these films, like
oh yeah, that's unmistakably, But the thing is with this as well, it influenced so many films. If you think about Bazzoni's Footprints on the Moon, where there's a scene in that early on where she loses 3 days of her life, which happens in this film as well. It's crazy, like Perfume of the Lady in Black is another completely like influenced by this film.
I mean Polanski. So I mean, man, he's influenced so many people as well. It's kind of like a chain reaction how this works. But
I think it's definitely one of the like early, one of the best early 60s films I've seen. And the performances, Catherine Deneuve never went on really to do much, to be honest, after this. Said a few things, but this kind of got her, if people talk about her now, it's because of this film. But yeah, I'll be interested to see how you all rate this, because I think we're all on the same page with this one.
I think it's pretty cool though. She went on to become a producer, and
she's in The Hunger as well. I remember seeing her in the Hunger. I can't.
The Hunger. It's been, man, I hadn't seen that since the 80s. I can't even remember.
It's just an odd one because obviously, anytime you throw David Bowie into a film, you're going to get a strange.
Yeah, it's definitely true. Yeah.
Didn't she carry him in one of the scenes as well? In that, I think Catherine Deneuve asked to carry Bowie, and she said she found it difficult.
Wow. Yeah, I think.
What do you make it? You guys make out of this film? Then is it all in her head? What would you come away with it? What do you actually think, or is it just one of those films where you just think you're kind of open-minded about everything? Have you got? What I'm trying to say is, have you got a concrete idea what you think?
To me personally, like
I don't.
It's pretty open, but I mean, it does tend to lean, because when it shows that picture at the end
on
the
the
last
sexual
shot,
abuse angle,
it shadows. It puts shadows on everybody except her and that one man.
Yep.
And she's like, just the way she's looking at him. So I don't. I mean, but who knows? You know.
The best theory that I could come up with would be exactly that. There's some sort of trauma in her background that left it almost impossible for her to have a normal relationship with men. And she wants that, but anytime she tries to do that, she gets mentally ill, like further mentally ill. Like that's because you notice, like with the hallucinations, it always comes like usually directly after she gets some sort of like, I won't say excitement, but some sort of like,
it's like a mixture, right, of excitement and torment.
Yeah.
At the same time.
It's a reaction from being around a guy. That's when the hallucinations come. So that's the best I could piece together. That's kind of what's going on too.
I would feel that for me, it feels very real, like a real depiction of a mental health crisis, and with obviously some commentary in there that I guess is very pertinent to us reading loads into it. So if we just focus on her, then for me, it doesn't feel like, obviously this, she's an unreliable narrator because she's not quite sure what's real and what's not. But in the sense of us watching it from a distance and watching her, for me, it feels quite genuine and quite a real experience. So it doesn't feel like it's like a complete fantasy, if that makes sense.
Did y'all know that this? I didn't realize this until we, started looking into this film a little deeper. But this is the first part of Polanski's apartment trilogy.
Yeah, Rosemary's Baby, and then The Tenant.
Yeah.
Okay,
I didn't even know that. So that's pretty.
I didn't know they were an official. No,
I'm gonna have to go back and watch Rosemary. I'm gonna have to watch them in order and see what's up.
Yeah, because I could never get it. This might be a controversial thing, and I think JT has said the same on his channel. Like, I can't really get into. I could never really get into Rosemary's Baby, and I don't know. And maybe we'll talk a bit about similarities when we talk about the next film as well. But it's interesting. I kind of, when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out, and I was listening to quite a lot of podcasts about Hollywood around that time, and there's a lot of Polanski talk in it, and a lot of stuff like. I kind of got to the point where I didn't want to hear anything more about him. So it's been a while since I dove into anything. And this, I'm really glad that we watched this, though. Like, I'm glad that I went back and gave this a really focused watch, because I got loads out of watching it. I thought it was really interesting. And it was good to listen to all your takes on it as well, actually. So, fascinating.
Yeah, I could totally see, if I'm being honest, why people would not like this movie. And I could also totally see why that people would love this movie. Because, it's like a play almost. It's like you're focused on one character almost through the entire thing, and just kind of like her interactions with, the world and how she can't really manage that. So I mean, if that kind of movie, it's not, let's say, action packed or anything like that. No, so if that's not your thing, then you're not gonna.
You have to pay pretty close attention to it. I think
it's not at the level. You
can't walk around and like just have a casual conversation while this shit's playing.
No.
It's and the stuff that happens isn't at the level of, say, like that happens to her. That's like, say, I spit on your grave or something like that.
No, it's not.
It doesn't have. You don't have that level, but it is disturbing and it is wrong, and in a way, it's more believable because it's not as heightened and wild. That, in a way, makes it more scary because it's more atmospheric and more believable. Like I said,
it is. Yeah, it's a lot. The character herself is much more believable than those characters that you would see in movies like that. Like that, the kind of overdone, exaggerated kind of character. It's very subtle the way that she plays this role.
Yeah, it's not like a revenge. She's not like a revenge superhero.
Yeah,
that's how you could go with this. You could end up going in that way where she's just like slicing and dicing these guys and laughing and having a great time.
But she doesn't have fun with any of it. That's the fun thing. It's not a fantasy kind of film where the revenge part is the fantasy part. It's just her literally just trying to survive, being mentally ill around these guys.
Do y'all feel like that Colin deserved what he got? I felt like, dude, why are you busting in through the door? Settle down. Buddy.
That kind of seemed like the character a little bit.
Who says that, by the way? Just out of curiosity, who's like knocking at your door? Like, if you don't open it, I'm gonna bust it down.
Yeah.
That's a little.
I've seen too many movies.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but if somebody does that around here, they're getting some. So getting
it's the same rewatchability.
Thing, getting the rabbit treatment.
Yeah.
This film's got so much rewatchability because you will pick up different things. Like I've watched it 4 or 5 times now. I've picked up different things every time.
Right.
And it's kind of like what I watched it a couple of days ago, obviously for this. And I kind of want to go back and watch it again now. It's one of those films that just keeps drawing you back in because it's so well made. I've heard that his first film was Knife in the Water, it's supposed to be better than this one, but have you guys seen that?
I haven't seen it. No.
Right,
I'm not like a massive Polanski fan. This might be the one of his that I actually now think is probably the best I've seen of his. But I've not seen every single one of his films. I'm not like.
I do want to check out The Tenant and.
Dirk, if you don't love that film, I feel like I kind of know you in some ways when it comes to films, and I feel like you'll love that one. Like that's my favorite Polanski film still is The Tenant. I think it is just. It's insanely good, and it's kind of a reverse of this in a way. It's a meditation about a guy living in an apartment building that gets completely paranoid about the people that are living around him.
He stars in that one, right?
Yeah, and he isolates himself completely, and then like kind of what happens to his mental health, after that. I still think that's my favorite. Like maybe I just watched that at a good time or something where I was, ready to see that kind of film. But yeah, it was around COVID, by the way, when I watched it, so it makes sense. Right. It kind of hit. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people say The Tenant is their favorite film from him. I've not seen Rosemary's Baby either, so
I love Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, I don't know. Me and Dirk got cover that at some point, but that's one that's bypassed me. It's been on TV over the years, and obviously in the UK, Pugwall and all. And I've just never got around and sat down to it, knowing because all the ending shows up in all these like Bravo, best clips of whatever, and you kind of know how it's gonna go. Yeah. So it's kind of put me off. But
I'm the same. I'm the same with that. Certainly with Rosemary's Baby over the years has always been what I just kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off because I was just like, I think I know what this is gonna.
Right, and it's up there. People talk about it in such high esteem. I just feel like I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
So
I think the same. Strangely, like without jumping into the next one, the sort of phenomenon of Mia Farrow is quite an interesting thing, really. If you look at her as a person, and I was trying to think of like if you made some of those films that she was in with a modern actress or whatever. Because she's so on the edge of a breakdown in real life so many times, particularly in the one we're going to talk about tonight, you believe her in these really extreme situations more than you would other actresses. And I think the reason is because some of the things, particularly when it comes to children and child death and all this kind of stuff, it's very hard to
I'll be right
No,
back.
it's fine.
Sure.
You want to look at it and go, this isn't real, and this is an actress because it makes you feel better as a viewer. Right. Whereas Mia Farrow, I think, because she's on the edge of a breakdown quite a lot, and that's what I read about the next film, that she had to have a break in the middle of it. It actually made it more powerful, makes her performances more powerful. I don't know. I can't remember. I've not seen Rosemary Baby for so long. I can't remember if that was the same. Whether she was as kind of on the edge as she is in what we're watching tonight. But I'd be interested to see what you guys think.
I kind of feel like that she has, at least to me in Rosemary's Baby, like she's more like anxiety riddled, more kind of tense. I don't know. I mean, she is that in this movie in some cases, but I don't think that it comes through as much as it did in Rosemary's Baby.
No, because in this one, so go on.
Go on. Sorry. I was going to say, if you notice with her, she even when she's not talking dialogue, it's all in the facial expression. She's superb, you know.
And her eyes are always
Julia. Yeah, I'm so excited to talk about the next one. To be honest,
it's interesting because I was looking at her eyes and I was like, that is somebody who cries a lot. Like that's somebody who is always like going through some tough stuff. And I guess, you know, history has shown that she was in real life, and you know, and also I guess the directors at that time, to get these performances out of people, they were treating them badly as well in a lot of cases. I mean, you got to look at The Exorcist and like throwing people against walls, and you know, like all these things where it's just like we need to get these shots, we need to get this performance. So she's someone where in The Haunting of Julia, I think I got more out of it because I was thinking, if that was, say, I don't know, for want of a name, if that was Nicole Kidman, for example, I'd just go, oh, it's not real. But because I don't know, it's just something about her. It feels like she's very she's in touch with her own trauma. I think that's what it is, really. And
apparently she was as mad as in real life as well. The director said on The Haunting of Julia, said she was mad as a box of bloody frogs or whatever. Like she really is.
Have y'all seen Secret Ceremony with her?
No.
I would say check that one out too. It's a way different role with her, but Elizabeth Taylor's in that movie too. It's kind of crazy, but
she didn't want to do Haunting of Julia either. She was quite content. She was doing like theatre work. She happened to be in London at the time, and the director had to go down and basically, you know, with her husband and try and convince her to do it. Because she called, I think on the Friday before they were going to start filming on the Monday, she kind of phoned up and said, I don't want to do it because Rosemary's Baby was playing on UK TV, and she kind of seen that, and she thought, well, I don't really want to do another supernatural film. I know we're jumping the gun into the next one. I guess we got to rate the last one.
We haven't scored the last one, have we?
Yeah.
I forgot. I was ready
all night. Like,
well, I think that's my fault. I started rambling.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
we all go on tangents, you know.
Yeah. What do you say, Darren? Repulsion.
Right, I love Repulsion. To me, it's kind of a high 8.5/9, depending, you know, depending what day. But yeah, it's like a minor masterpiece. Not quite a 9 or 10, but it's not far.
Okay. What do you think, UB?
It's tough. I don't know how to rate a movie like this. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a tough movie to rate. Even more so than like Peeping Tom, or even more so than The Haunting of Julia. But like, I think I enjoy movies like this more than just about any other type of movie. So I would probably give it like 8.5.
Okay.
I would probably, It's hard for me to say if I like Peeping Tom or this one better, but at the time that I watched this, I did.
Okay.
I was just like in the mood to watch a movie like that. And so I give it a little bit higher than Peeping Tom.
Yeah.
You've all made such. Do you want to go first, Dirk, before I?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Because I've almost been. I'm very easily swayed. So when I hear other people talking about it, I'm like, do you know what? Actually, that's a really good point. And then I start thinking, but I'm going to stick to my guns, and I'm going to give it a 7. I possibly could give it higher. When I watched the 3 of them again, pretty much back to back, this was my one that I think I thought about the most, and that's definitely a good thing, because you know sometimes you want. It's hard to find a movie that actually makes you think.
It's true, because after I watched it, you know, this second time watching it, and both times I've watched it, I think about it like the next day. I'll start thinking more about it. Like, what does that mean? But yeah, so I got to give it an 8. 8 out of 10, man. Solid film. Cinematography is, I mean, Gilbert Taylor is his name, and he won awards, man, a BAFTA award, and he's amazing. I think just the way he shot it, framed everything. I mean, of course, he didn't direct it, but I'm just saying.
In those small spaces, it's really hard to do something creative because you know, this is why sometimes I struggle with films sort of, I guess 2000s onwards. Sometimes it's just very dark, and you can't see what's going on, and there's not a lot of creativity within that. No. When somebody actually does think about it, composition and creativity, people go crazy for it, and everyone goes, "Oh wow, that's amazing!" And you go, "Yeah, people used to do that with massive, heavy machinery years." Yeah, and this is a good example of that. So yeah, I agree with you on that one. That you know, there's a lot to be said for the use of that space and the use of the lighting, and particularly, I think Darren said about the things coming out of the wall, and Bill mentioned about the cracks, and all these kind of things are very subtle, but they're not like multi-million-pound.
Yeah, that's a crazy story too. With that whole, so they went to a condom company, and got big sheets of the condoms and put on the walls, and they had people. They had to stick their arms in there, and they had to be in there. So, like lunchtime, people were feeding them and shit. Like, you know, they couldn't take their arm out of there. Or whatever.
I think Polanski said that's his worst part of the film. He wished he could go back and do that, because now you could do that a lot better. But I think it worked. The way it is.
Yeah.
But I got to mention the sound design as well. Even when, you know, in the apartment, you got all the bugs and like all the different sound effects with the ticking and all that during the rape scenes. The score is fantastic as well, which I forgot to mention earlier, but yeah.
You know, come to think about it though, one of the reasons why I might like this film so much too is that like nowadays you go to see a movie and they throw like 5,000 different things at you because everybody's, you know, so sensory, just ready to see 50 different things come at them at one time. And then you go to a movie like this and it's like everything puts on the brakes and you're just focused on this one thing. And even when situations come along, like where something else happens, it gives you enough time to kind of like process what happened. Then you stay with the character a little bit longer. And it's not like today where this movie would never exist today because you'd have like the best friend would have to come over and like, you'd have like aliens.
Add another 20 minutes on. Yeah.
Everybody has the attention span of a fly.
Yeah.
And ironically, attention span of a fly, yet the films were always 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice change of pace from the movies that we have to endure a lot of times today.
Yeah. Well, hell yeah, man. I guess we'll get into the Haunting of Julia. Well, I should say Full Circle is the British title.
Yeah.
And Haunting of Julia is the American title. I don't think the States got it until like 82, I think, is what I think.
He had trouble selling the film. You know, this film went into obscurity because it only ever had a VHS release. It kind of didn't even get picked up on DVD because there was some weird kind of rights issue. But basically, a super fan basically come forward a few years ago and delved deep into all of it. And that's why we've got the edition we've got now. If he hadn't tried, you know, and kept persevering, this film, like, basically wouldn't have been seen by hardly anyone. Now it's starting to get, you know, a little bit of a cult following, which is good. But this is a great film for me.
Yeah, man, it's like that. The opening of the film too. If you have kids, it's pretty hard to watch. Like,
the only thing I could think of, Dirk, when I watched the opening of that film is like, if one person knew the Heimlich maneuver, this film would be over in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
I was thinking exactly the same thing. And I was thinking of every first aid course that you have to go on. Like, I was thinking, like, they never go, grab the knife, shove it directly.
Like his idea is the worst freaking idea. So he picks her up by her legs and like it's just kind of like shaking her, like
swingo.
And also like trying to call for help. She's like, "There's no time," and it's just like, what in the hell? But I mean, so basically, while trying to save Julia, she's trying to save her daughter. She's choking at the breakfast table, and she's trying to save her, and so she tries to do like a tracheotomy on her. And I guess it don't show it, but we assume she messed up, and her daughter dies, and then she gets put into like a trauma clinic, is what I'm guessing, some kind of
a mental hospital. I was thinking, but something along those lines. But that opening scene is so much like reminds me of Don't Look Now. And even if you think like without jumping too far ahead, the ending is Don't Look Now.
It's 100%. Yeah.
Right.
But it's got, this film is not just, I think it does a discredit to like just say it's like a Don't Look Now clone, because it's got its own thing with the backstory and all that, which is superb. Like this just blows me away when you see something like this that's been lost for so long, and then there is films out there, you realize there is other films out there that you're gonna love and no one probably hardly anybody has ever seen. So it gives you hope. But I'm really interested to see what you three think of this one.
Yeah, man, it's holy shit. I think it, from what I was seeing, like I saw Kim Newman. He talked about it on the Scream Factory release. He's great. He was talking about The Omen. Came out the year before, so it kind of hurt this film. But
it's kind of got the Omen elements as well with the kills.
Kind of Final Destination. Like I can see that too.
Like in a way, the accidents that go on. Yeah.
I think Kim Newman's like one of the last bastions of like good commentary people who's kind of got a really good overview of what he's discussing, and it isn't kind of like about him. He's I really do like his sometimes, and particularly in sort of later Arrow ones, the quality of commentary tracks I think has gone down quite a lot. But in terms of this, it's good to find out all that information. To be honest, most of the stuff that Darren said, then I wasn't aware of that and the kind of history of it. It is a film that's passed me by a bit. I know JT's recommended it to me a few times. A few people have recommended it to me 2 times. I maybe got mixed up with the Full Circle, Haunting of Julia, got a bit confused.
Which title do y'all prefer, by the way?
They both kind of suck to me, if I'm being honest. Like, there's way too many haunting of something movies, and also
there is now. Yeah.
Well, it was originally called Julia. That's what the original idea was going to be.
The book's called Julia, and the book. The book's way different from what I was under. I haven't read it.
The director only agreed to do the film if they changed certain things to the book. Basically,
in the book,
do you remember? A couple of years ago, the film The Scary of 61st.
I've heard of it.
Now, like, I know that's kind of more of an exploitation kind, but it just made me think of like The Haunting of the Scary, and I was just again, that's like a really weird film, isn't it? But it's of a particular place being haunted, and I know that's not a completely original idea, but it kind of goes in that sort of title thing. I think I would probably go. I think Full Circle doesn't really do much for me. Having said that, I didn't think Peeping Tom was a particularly good title. Clearly that is the original Faces of Death. Like that's about literally you're seeing people's faces.
People are like, "Oh, we're gonna go watch a soft porn, huh?" Or,
Yeah. I didn't like the sight of Peeping Tom, but I don't.
Full Circle doesn't sound like a horror film, though. I think that's why they changed it.
No. Yeah, it sounds like a travelogue or something.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
It had so many title changes as well.
Once you watch the film, it makes sense. But if you're trying to get people to watch it, it's probably not the best.
Yeah, you have to watch the film. Yeah. And I guess that element of it does come together in the end. As I was going through, I thought, oh, this feels a little bit all over the place tonally and plot-wise, and why are we going off doing this? They do to give it credit. It does tie up nicely, and it does make I don't know. I think it does.
Yeah,
I've only watched it once, so maybe I'm just tying it up in a bone.
There's like 3 conclusions you can make. Like is she possessed? Is she seeing ghosts for real? Or is she going off her mind? Out of her mind. So you kind of got to make that up for you. But I think the ending, for me anyway, is kind of clear. I think.
And it's a great shot. It's a brilliant shot.
Yeah. Is she at peace at the end? Like, I don't know.
I think it's suicide. I literally think it's suicide.
We're totally spoiling the film, but
yeah. I just couldn't get away though. There's certain scenes in the movie, like there's several scenes where she's at a park or something and she sees like what appears to be her daughter from behind. And when those scenes came up, man, I kept going back to Don't Look Now in my head, like, because that's just that's that whole movie, that's basically like, you're following that around and you keep seeing these things and just trying to piece together like what's going on. And then in certain other scenes, like the seance scene, then I switch over to the changeling. So it's like,
absolutely,
I just got like all this stuff, kind of like the other two films to me seemed completely original. And I'm not saying that this one wasn't, but it just had elements in it that I'd seen in like a couple of different films. So it was harder for me to kind of like get behind this movie than it was the other two.
Okay.
I would agree with that. I felt story-wise, even though it's not a long film, it felt quite a long film, and maybe because I'd watched it third out of the three films, and any film that I watched third was going to be the one that felt like I was making myself focus on it a bit more. But I did feel like there was some plodding elements in it that it could do without. But then I guess I also appreciate, a bit like you were saying before, Darren, about the first film. Sometimes you can appreciate something and know why it's there without loving it. So there's probably a bit of that as well. I don't know. I appreciate Mia Farrow's performance in this a lot. I really like seeing Tom Conti pop up as well, just because he's kind of somebody I know mainly more from TV stuff. Yeah, he's a strange sort of guy to have. Like more comedic roles. So it's a bit of an odd one to have him pop up as a. And also, even when he dies in the bath, it's quite funny.
And you got Keira Dullea or whatever from 2001: Space Odyssey and Black Christmas.
Black Christmas, yeah.
So it's the book's completely different than the film, though. And I wonder how this film would have been with these couple of little things that are different. So Julia is the killer in the book.
Right.
I mean, that kind of follows with the movie, like anytime she goes and visits somebody and they have like a discussion about like, especially when she figures out what's going on,
right?
Then they die immediately after they talk to her. So it's like, is she cursed? Or is she like bringing some sort of evil spirit with her, like when she goes to visit these people, or like, is she killing them? Like, so that makes sense. Like they kind of
left. She's the little girl then, so she's the story's pretty much the same. So she's the little girl.
But in the book, though, Olivia, the little girl, is like her stepdaughter, and like so the half sister of her daughter that died.
Right, yeah, that's what I read.
In the book, and the father Magnus, he doesn't die in the book, like, and he's like he's even 100 times worse in the book, from what I understand. But I just wonder how that would have went on film, but
because he for me he's a bit of a non-entity, really, like the dad. Considering he's been through the same trauma that she's been through.
Piece of shit. He don't try to do shit, really. Like he's like
Tom Conti seems to be more emotionally in tune with her, and it wasn't his kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like when the stuff's going down and his daughter's dying, he's just like, I'm gonna call for help. Yeah.
But he pushes over Wallace from Wallace and Gromit, for fuck's sake. Like he pushes over Peter Solis. I mean, the guy's a dick. Like, what are you doing? Like, give him some.
I was surprised when I seen him turn up, because he's like a comedy actor. I don't know if
he's amazing. I used to love like Last of the Summer Wine when I was
exactly.
A kid.
That's what I remembered. I'm like,
but you hear his voice and you're like, why is he pushing Wallace around?
You've even got the woman who does the seance, and she was in EastEnders as well.
Yeah,
you know, she
yeah,
was
like
like
Big Mo.
yeah.
Was it Big Mo? Or... No, not Big Mo.
Not Big Mo, but she was. I think she was Pauline Fowler's mother.
Yeah,
but,
she was like a matriarch kind of.
What do you guys feel about the story as well, where it goes into, you know, she looks into Olivia and finds out, you know, about the whole backstory with the German boy.
That's dark. It's dark.
It is.
Yeah, when the guy, the alcoholic guy, kind of gives the whole backstory and everything, you're just kind of like, Jesus. Like, I mean, it gets really dark, really, really quick in that movie, and I think the best scene in the movie, though, for me, is when she goes to like the sanitarium or whatever, and she meets with the old woman.
Oh man,
that old woman is amazing. I don't know who that
She's
is.
Creepy
but,
as shit. Like her eyes.
Well, she says shit as well. She says shit. You shit.
Yeah.
And when she's explaining what she did, and you're just like, God Almighty, they needed to get her for some of these Conjuring movies that they always got, like, you know, the stereotypical creepy old woman.
Definitely,
There's another jump scene in you as well concerning a mirror, where like Tom Conti got the mirror and he's taking it, you know, and she kind of walks in. I jumped again. Like every time I see that one, I jump as well.
Yeah.
It's weird that we had two kind of the same scenes in two of the films. But
the score, the score.
For
me,
man, that's one of the best things of the film for me.
One of the strengths of this film. It's man, I can listen to that shit.
It's like, that piano, like it's superb. And you think about it, it was lost as well for so many years. Now that score, I'll play, you know, whenever I get a chance, you know, I'll put it on a playlist or something. I love it so much. But it adds to the film, I think. I can't imagine the film being without this score. It's kind of like what Suspiria is, you know, Goblin, and kind of get that type of vibe as well. But it's just so haunting as Julia, you know, it's just such a haunting score. Love it. Yeah,
man.
That's an underrated score. It's not one you hear people talk about a lot either. I think I'm just seeing people in the chat talking about it as well and saying like how great it is. So yeah, those who know really love it.
Obviously, like you guys have only just all recently seen this film.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense with the release like being not long ago. But that's what I mean. It's amazing to think that this could have been just sunk into obscurity. Like, yeah,
and I think the ending is another great part of the movie, because I hate endings where everything is kind of explained to you. Like, and this is an ending where it's not explained to you at all, really. I mean, you kind of figure out what's going on, but like, it never really says like what exactly happens. And therefore, because it never really says what happens, you don't really know like what was going on with her the entire time of the movie either. So I mean, that's.
Did you guys think the same as me though? I actually think it was suicide over the regret of what she did.
I think that was
killing her daughter, basically.
I think that was it. I think that was the whole point of the movie. Really, was like how like
it would make sense, wouldn't it? Yeah, particularly because you don't see the actual things, but then you obviously you see the wounds, don't you? But you don't see the actual.
But then it's her guilt throughout the whole film, you know. Yeah,
but then it's got that ambiguous, because you see this beautiful little girl that's just so creepy as shit. Like she is like jarringly creepy, man. Just sitting there looking at you and those eyes, and like she comes like at the end of the film. So I mean, it's kind of open in your own mind. I love these films, though, man. I love the ambiguity.
That's
come together really well. These three.
Yeah. That's the best part about the movies, about these type of movies. They don't tell you how to think about them. You just kind of figure that out for yourself.
Yeah, don't treat you like an idiot.
Yeah, but in my mind, this was kind of her. This whole movie was basically her descending into some sort of fantasy, delusional world. You know, not being able to deal with losing her daughter. And which all culminates with that end scene. Yeah. That's how I view the movie. But I mean, it's like you said, it's open for interpretation.
Yeah, for sure. Because then you got the Tom Conti character is constantly like whatever. Like, but what's up with but then think about what's up with the psychic woman though. She is like traumatized from.
That's true. Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions.
Having her own.
Like, I think it's rewatchable though. I think that's what it makes it more rewatchable. Is all those elements to it. So.
I think it's really interesting that we've all kind of maybe got one out of the three that is slightly above the others, but we've none of us have absolutely slated any of them. All three of them are kind of, they're matched nicely, but we have our own preference, which makes perfect sense. That you can appreciate things in them all, but this is the one I got the most out of. And the more we talked about Repulsion, I was like, actually, do you know what? I think I liked it more than I thought at the time. And even this one, which was the one, and shock, is the one I liked the least. But still, I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was a bad movie. But it's just interesting to hear the different takes on it. I think if I was to buy one, if I had to go into a shop and buy one, I'd probably buy Peeping Tom, because I just think it looks, I guess I like trashier stuff, and it kind of feels trashier and sleazier. Yeah. And I like I could see it. I could see like color, the color, all that kind of stuff. I think
Eastman color looking like a old porno mag or something, like.
Yeah,
that's what it is. That's why I love it. No.
Well, it's funny though, because all the films do like their look fits the story of the film. Yeah. So like the Peeping Tom looks the way that it does, and Repulsion looks like a weird, art house avant-garde kind of, because and then The Haunting of Julia looks like a gothic kind of horror film. So
you can place it in the 70s as well with Tom Conti places it in the 70s more for me, because it's around that time when Paul McCartney was driving a Land Rover and wearing Parker jackets and driving through London in Land Rovers. Right. And I'm like, Tom Conti's doing exactly the same thing in that. And obviously you mentioned like Eastman color stuff. There's loads. I bring everything back to Paul McCartney, but it just made me into it just made me think of that weird time in the 70s where people with a bit of money in the city drove around like they were trying to be farmers, like pretend they were farmers. So Tom Conti's character just looks so weird in that kind of film, but that's what places it in its time for me. Obviously, Peeping Tom is a very 60s film. Particularly because of the behind the scenes of the films and the films that they were making and how they were making them. But then Repulsion isn't a swinging 60s film by anything, but you can definitely tell it's around that time.
You can see the fashions and the hairstyles.
But it's not glamorous. That's what I think's interesting about it. There's no like it. In the hands of somebody else, it would be like, for example, I wasn't a massive fan of what was the Edgar Wright film.
Last Night in Soho.
Yeah, I wasn't like a massive fan of that, because I think that's like almost a pop culture loving version of Repulsion almost, or something like that. I don't know what it was, but for me, I didn't think it was brilliant.
Oh man, I did.
I know loads of people did.
Well, I liked it a lot. The first watch, and then the second watch, I was like,
I remember you saying that.
Holes in it.
I don't think there's any substance to it. I think it looks great. I think that's my main thing.
Yeah, but don't you think it captures that, swinging 60s? That film does actually capture that.
I mean, it's a different. It's definitely a different style of film. Maybe it's just not to my taste. Like,
I don't think the story's great, if I'm honest. I don't, but and all that. But
Terrence Stamp is great, and Diana Rigg's great, and
I do think the reveal is actually quite good. But
I
actually think that's his... Go on, sorry.
Oh, sorry, dude.
No, go on.
I was gonna say I just like to see Diana Rigg in anything.
Yeah.
She's
because I was a huge Avengers mark. So anything she's in, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she was an amazing Doctor Strange. So yeah. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
I think that's Anya Taylor-Joy's film, though. You know, for me, Anya. I know Uncle Bill's not. Are you a big fan of Anya Taylor-Joy?
Hammerhead was there.
Oh, Hammerhead.
Yeah,
am I a fan of hers? That's a tough question. I liked her in the I liked her in the Menu.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good. I like the Menu.
In The Witch as well.
The Witch.
I liked her in The Witch.
Yeah,
The Witch.
But like, I don't like her in shit like the Mad Max movie.
I haven't seen that. So.
Not seen it.
There's another movie she's in. I didn't like her in either. So I'm kind of split.
The Northman.
The Northman.
I've not seen that.
Yeah, I did see The Northman. We did a review of that. Yeah, that's a wild film too, though. That's it. Yeah.
Good call on the Menu, though. I really enjoyed the Menu. I thought that was good fun.
Yeah. So it just depends on what she's in, really. I mean, I can take her or leave her, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, if she has the right material, she does it.
She's one of the probably most popular right now, alongside Mia Goth and Jenna Ortega, unfortunately.
Jenna Ortega has go away heat with me. Like, she just needs to like go away. I can't.
X-Pac heat.
She has X-Pac heat. Yeah. However you want to say it. She's got warrior heat. Like, she just needs to like, because like she's playing the same character over and over again, which is basically her. I think she's just playing Jenna Ortega, like in everything I've seen her in. So of all the new up and coming people, she's the one that I just cannot stand.
Right.
Fair comment.
Yeah, you got all these hipsters. They kind of jump onto these different actors, actresses, or films as well, and they hype them up so much, like, you know. And then when you do get around to seeing them or seeing the performances, you just think, no, you know.
No, she has zero range whatsoever. She's just
right.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
It tripped me out to find out that Mia Farrow was married to Frank Sinatra.
Yeah,
like, what the?
Yeah.
Woody Allen and Frank Sinatra. No wonder she was like confused.
Yeah. With Woody Allen, it said she was his partner. That's what I was confused. I was like, what the hell? And then Sinatra said she married and divorced him. And then some other.
I love Woody Allen films.
Yeah.
Read all his books and things like that. And obviously watching the documentaries again, it's almost like going over what we did earlier on with Roman Polanski, where
exactly.
I kind of feel for Mia Farrow in, you know,
she was basically in the real life version of Repulsion. She lived
I mean, that documentary is like, you know, you can tell like Woody Allen, he's definitely guilty. You know, you can just tell. Even though
a hard watch,
he never got put behind bars or anything, though, did he?
No.
He never really been solved. No, there's too much evidence in that documentary to say anything different, really.
Yeah, it's just sad. It's just sad.
It is, yeah.
Because like I can't. One of my favorite films is Annie Hall, and I haven't watched it for years now because, I can't.
It does make you realize that there's a lot more, like, you know, going on in all these older films with directors and that you don't even know about.
Well, look at
Hitchcock. Think about
Hitchcock too.
Yeah, Hitchcock's a creepy fuck.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, he was a creepy fuck, like in general, but also, I guess that's one of the things that made him such a good director as well. So I don't know.
He would just had fixations on his leading actresses, didn't he? Kind of become obsessed with them, really.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's like we'll make jokes about things until we find out that they're really a lot worse than they are. So like Tarantino, it's like, oh, he loves feet. Like he loves feet, and then you know, oh, he loves his feet, and then we're just But you know, I'm not saying anything, but because I you know, I love like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think it's brilliant. Obviously, quite a lot of the other ones I love, but and I find him fascinating, and I listen to his podcast and what have you. But yeah, you don't know. We don't know what people are getting up to.
I mean, he did try to murder Uma Thurman, so it's like there's that side of him too.
Yeah, he's learning from all these great directors, and not just in terms of his homages to them on the screen, but how he treats his cast. Yeah. Wow. So we've come full circle.
I was going to say you've even got the Dario Argento thing with his daughter Asia.
Yeah,
I mean that was kind of really freaky at one point.
I mean, if you watch that commentary stuff that's on the new opera release, and you got Daria Nicolodi talking about like how she feared for her life because like she really believed he was trying to kill her in the making of that film and everything. And it's like, yeah, man, all these guys that are these kind of auteurs are fucked up. They seem to be like, there's a part of them that's like, yeah, they make these kind of films because they are indeed a part.
Yeah, they got to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think in anything, in any, certain people can justify their behavior by pointing at the end result. So obviously I'll see it in like education, like, of course we've bullied this person out of their job. Of course we've made their life a misery. We've done it for the kids. So like, there's always, and it's like, look at this masterpiece. Of course I made their life a misery and broke their back and hurt them and put them in hospital and gave them a nervous breakdown. But look at this work that I made. And, equally, I will then watch that film and go, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Kind of same. Yeah.
Right.
Like,
I don't know what that says about us.
No.
Like,
I know. I think you'll know more about that than we, Uncle Bill. You can analyze this this whole thing later on.
I'll analyze this whole stream later.
Yeah, just send the bill to Dirk.
What do y'all give the Haunting full circle?
The Haunting of Full Circle.
I'll go on this one because I think this was my least favorite, just because, like I said, I think the other two were like something that is just completely original that I hadn't seen, and this one had tropes in it that I felt like I had seen before, even though it was done really well. I would give it a 7.
That's fair.
Okay.
I still think it's a great film, but I mean,
that's still good. That's a good rating. Hell yeah!
Right, for me, I definitely go like another 8.5. It's not going to be a 9, I don't think, ever. But yeah, it's just like Uncle Bill said, it's got tropes of all other films. So it's kind of like a reels of all different, The Omen and Don't Look Now. But I don't know, it's just something there that draws me to it again. So I've seen it a few times now, and I think it's going to be something I'll play a lot, in every 6 months or so. And you will find, again, like I said with the other films, you will find different things in you every time you see it. So, high 8.5, I'd say.
Okay. What do you think, Matt?
So, Darren's swaying me a bit as well, because his kind of explanation and the chat in general has kind of helped me kind of get a bit more out of it than maybe I did at the time. But I'm going to stick with my guns again, like I did before. And this was out of the 3, the one I probably enjoyed the least. I had it as like a 6.5 to 7. So I'm not a big fan of half marks. I'm only just getting into half marks at 45. But I'm gonna go 7. I'm gonna go 7. But
okay. That's where I'm at with it too. 7 out of 10. So
right,
yeah,
maybe like you said, we're not doing half marks. So I would say 7.5, but I'll keep it at a 7. So,
no, that's
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how people feel that, because literally on Letterboxd I was like, do you know what? This film isn't a 2, and it's not a 3-star film. Maybe it's a 2.5, and then I felt really like I was being a bad boy, So I don't know. I've started looking at half marks more. I'm not going to go into 3/4 stars either.
Oh man, 6.7
crazy at that point.
6.7.
Yeah.
But
I think real quick, I would bring this up too in the chat. Like JT mentioned Mia Goth. To me, we were talking about Jenna Ortega and Anya Taylor-Joy and all those people. To me, Mia Goth is probably the most interesting new actor that's out there. Like, she's completely fearless.
Yeah.
Like, about the shit that she does, which is intriguing to me. Like, I mean, I'm drawn to people like that don't do things in a typical way, don't go about their jobs in a typical way like that, and don't just settle for whatever anybody else is doing. They do it like and she doesn't shy away from difficult material and things like that either, which I find to be pretty interesting.
Even though Maxine didn't live up to what we
No,
I still did a great job.
I haven't seen it yet, but I
won't spoil it.
I mean, that's the hype
thing
as well, you know. All these hipsters getting online and just hyping the hell out of it before it's even come out. They're analyzing the trailer.
Well, I think the expectation.
I liked it.
You know.
Yeah, I liked it, but it is the least out the three, I'd say. You know.
Yeah. But yeah, man, this has been a great one, man. I appreciate everybody coming on and coming on the second episode of the Eurocrypt, man. We'll have to do some more.
I had a great time, man. I thought this was awesome. I enjoy talking film at any point and with anybody. Yeah. So
you guys have been great. Yeah.
Cheers, Darren, Bill, and Dirk for inviting me on, and Dirk especially for organizing it all. And man, awesome. Really enjoyed it.
Appreciate it. And we'll have to figure out like what type of films, I guess, as well for the next one. But
a high bar now. High bar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but like really I say, anytime you guys want to come on in the future, if you see us doing something, and you know, if you see like one of Dirk's kind of, you know, he puts up what we're going to cover in the following week. If any of you guys interested, just hit us up and jump on, you know.
Or if you need
open invitation
or something, you know, that's there too. So.
Oh, thanks. That's really kind, Darren and Dirk. Cheers, thank you.
Yeah, I only want to do early 2000s remakes though. The next time, that's all I want to do.
I might not have seen them.
I might be sick.
Yeah.
But, no, man. I'm sorry I completely ignored the chat, but I mean it's kind of hard, and now I understand. Sometimes you're like when you're in the chat, because I spam the chat like a son of a bitch. I'm always like spamming the shit out of the chat.
The thing is, you got the Deadpit, you know, viewers as
you
well.
Got all when, you know, you're trying to talk about these, and it's hard to really focus in on the chat. But
yeah, people are always up our ass about like, you know, why don't you read our comments or why don't you get in the chat? It's like, dude, when you're doing something like, and you're trying to like focus on, it's hard to like read every single comment and get to every single thing.
Yeah,
we'd be here like. I mean, till midnight. Well, it's past midnight for y'all. Sorry.
That's my bedtime. Man. I've got to get my beauty sleep. I'm desperately in need of it.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it, man. What do you have coming up on your channel, Matt?
All kinds. So next live stream is we're doing Nosferatu in Venice. Myself and Al Lacard.
Okay.
We've done Nosferatu, we've done Nosferatu, the Kinski one, and now we're doing Nosferatu in Venice on a while off. I'm trying to release things every couple of days, a range of stuff really. So whether it's like a re-edited trailer or a movie clip or a tribute to someone or just something funny that I found and edited, or interviews. There's an interview that a lot of people haven't looked at, but there's an interview with Ted Nicolau that I did talking about his work on the Silence disc that he did with Martin Scorsese, and I thought it was a really good chat with him. But people haven't seemed to pick up on that, so I'd recommend that if there's anything that people would watch. But other than that, yeah, that's what's happening. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, man. What's next for you, Uncle Bill, on the Deadpit?
Dirk, you know I don't know. I don't know what's going on like from one week to the next. So I do know this. Right. Friday the 13th is next Friday. So we're doing a tier listing of the characters from Friday the 13th. I do know that. And then on the 15th, Garrett and I are going to start the Bravo show, the countdown show that we go over Bravo's 100 Scariest Moments, kind of see what we think about them, like if we agree with the rankings and things like that they did. This was an old show they did. I can't even remember when that came out. Early 2000s maybe that came out.
Yeah, I remember seeing that back in the day.
Yeah. So those are the two things I know off the bat that we're doing them.
Okay. But yeah, man, everybody in the chat, let's see, I see CK in here. What's going on tonight, boys?
What's up, man?
Well, it's early for me and Uncle Bill, but it's late for Darren.
Yeah.
And man, so
I was going to say, Dirk, as well. Next week on our channel, we got coming up is opera. So basically, it's kind of my favorite. It's come to become my favorite film of all time, not just favorite Argento. But what we're going to do is I'm going to cover the complete, new release of it because Dirk hasn't had his yet, but Dirk's got the German release, so we're going to
I'm going to break out the German release, the play-on release. We're going to go through everything on both releases and see.
And we're going to go through the film basically bit by bit as well. So it's going to be just focused on opera, like one show.
Yeah, just one movie.
People look out for that. Yeah.
Did you? Oh, sorry. So you guys have got opera in, right? Or does Dirk not have it yet?
I haven't got my Severin yet.
I've got it. Yeah,
but I do have the German play-on release. That's 5-disc set that I bought.
Oh yeah. Okay. So what did you think about the picture quality, Darren? Like, did you notice
fine
anything?
To me? Yeah, it seemed fine to me. I couldn't really see anything with it.
I'm still waiting on that
Sony player.
Yeah. I'm still waiting on my friggin' replacement disc, but that's a whole other story for another day.
Oh, have you got the deep cuts as well, Uncle Bill?
Yeah.
That set is amazing, I tell you. There's so much on that set.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but I've got it.
Yeah, he does he introduces like a series called Night Shift, and they're like these little short giallos, and there's like 15 of them. They're not great, but I mean they're worth seeing because you've got Daria Nicolodi. She plays in one with Asia Argento set at Christmas, and just little things like that. But you've got 2 or 3 big like documentaries on him on there. You've got the doorway into darkness as well. So
yeah, we'll be covering that.
Show on that as well. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do a show on that one. I guess is it.
Cool.
But yeah, man, I guess we'll get out of here. And again, sorry for ignoring the chat, but everybody sub up to everybody on here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
hit the like button if you want, all that good stuff. But
not if you want to. You hit it right now. You do it. You got no choice.
I've just liked every channel on YouTube just because you told me to. So everybody else should get that. Do it now.
Yes. Yeah.
Make it happen.
Get to it.
All right. If y'all want to hang back for a minute before we leave, I can do that. So, but all right, y'all. Have a good one. Have a good rest of your weekend.
See y'all.
Stay safe.
Have a good one, guys.